You now live in a medieval castle. Pros: imposing stone structure that makes your enemies tremble. Cons: literally everything else. Your bedroom is drafty, your food is bland, your clothes never quite dry, and your royal bottom is about to meet the medieval equivalent of toilet paper. A stick with a sponge attached. Still interested in that castle life? Let's take a tour of your new stone-cold reality. Your medieval castle isn't just a home. It's primarily a military installation, with some very reluctant living quarters tacked on as an afterthought. Imagine living in a tank that can't move, designed by someone whose primary concern was making sure invaders died in creative ways, not ensuring you could sleep without wearing 3 layers of clothing. The first thing you'll notice about your new stone mansion is that it's designed to confuse people. Those spiral staircases. They twist clockwise specifically so right-handed defenders have room to swing their swords while attackers trip over themselves. Unfortunately, this means you'll also be stumbling down them half asleep when nature calls at 3 a.m. Medieval architects didn't believe in user-friendly design unless the users were armed soldiers. Windows are considered a structural weakness, so enjoy your arrow slits. 6-inch wide openings that let in just enough light to confirm that, yes, it is still daytime somewhere outside these walls. In winter, they transform into personal wind tunnels, delivering targeted cold air directly to your face. Some castles had glass windows, but early medieval glass was about as transparent as the political motivations of your local baron, which is to say, not very. The walls themselves are so thick that getting a signal, sending a message from one part of the castle to another, requires a dedicated servant to run it there. No wonder medieval nobles were fit. Just going from your bedroom to the Great Hall could qualify as a CrossFit workout. 5 flights of stairs, 3 confusing corridors, and 2 heavy doors later, you've burned off breakfast before even reaching the kitchen. Let's talk about your interior design options. Hope you like tapestries, because they're not just decorative. They're the medieval equivalent of insulation. Your bedroom, or chamber, if you're feeling fancy, lacks several amenities modern humans consider essential, like privacy. Your servants might sleep in the same room, at the foot of your bed or just outside your door. Your bed is essentially a wooden platform large enough to host a small tournament. It's also probably infested with bedbugs, which were considered such normal bedfellows. Lighting consists of candles and rushlights for the fancy occasions, and smoky oil lamps for everyday use. Reading after sunset. Hope you enjoy squinting and headaches. This lighting situation creates the perfect environment for both atmospheric ghost stories and tripping over that chest you forgot was there. And then there's the heating system, which is basically a collection of fireplaces waging a losing battle against stone walls that actively collect and radiate cold. Your castle likely has a permanent haze hovering at eye level. Your castle kitchen is a smoky, chaotic hellscape that somehow produces food for dozens or even hundreds of people daily. The good news, as a castle dweller, you're eating better than 99% of the population. The bad news, that's an incredibly low bar. Your typical meal consists primarily of bread so dense, it could double as a weapon. Forks were considered absurdly fancy Italian inventions until the late medieval period. The main meal was typically served around 10 or 11 in the morning, with a lighter supper in the early evening. Breakfast wasn't a significant meal, usually just bread and ale. Speaking of drinks, water was rarely consumed directly. They knew dirty water made you sick. Instead, everyone from servants to lords drank small beer or ale with minimal alcohol content throughout the day. Winter meant preserved everything: salted meat, dried fruit, and pickled vegetables of questionable texture and appeal. Your best chance for vitamin C might come from something called posset, a hot drink of curdled milk, ale, and whatever herbs the castle gardener managed to keep alive in the window boxes. Your bathing routine would horrify modern health inspectors. Full body immersion in water might happen a few times a year for the average noble. If you were particularly wealthy, your daily hygiene consisted of washing hands and face with a basin of water. Teeth cleaning involved rubbing them with a cloth, and maybe some salt or herbs. The resulting breath was memorable. And let's discuss the toilet situation, delicately called the garderobe. Picture a stone seat with a hole that drops waste directly down the castle wall into the moat or a pit. In winter, these created refreshing updrafts in places you'd least want them. And how about toilet paper? No, that was not a thing. Options included moss, leaves, a communal sponge on a stick kept in a bucket of vinegar or salt water, or, if you were fancy, pieces of wool or linen cloth. Treatments ranged from ineffective to actively harmful. Got a headache? Let's drill a hole in your skull to let the demons out. Fever? Clearly, you need less blood. Social life in your medieval castle revolves around one central principle: avoid boredom or go mad from staring at the same stone walls and the same faces every day. The Great Hall serves as your castle's combination living room, dining room, courtroom, and entertainment center. During the day, it's where your lord handles business and settles disputes. At night, it transforms into medieval dinner theatre. Games were popular among all social classes. Chess and backgammon existed for the strategic thinkers, while dice games satisfied those with gambling tendencies. Physical games included early versions of tennis, football, and various throwing competitions. Hunting wasn't just a sport, but an obsession for the nobility. Falconry was the medieval equivalent of having an expensive, high-maintenance hobby that you couldn't stop talking about. Feasts and celebrations punctuated the calendar. Religious holidays, name days, weddings, or visiting dignitaries all provided excuses for elaborate meals and entertainment. Now let's talk about castle security and warfare. To establish proper castle security, it begins with location, location, location. Perched on a hill? Good. Surrounded by water? Better. Both? Now you're living the paranoid noble dream. That spiral staircase that makes carrying laundry a nightmare becomes a tactical advantage when invaders have to fight their way up, while your defenders rain down violence from above. First, attackers face the outer walls and moat, which isn't filled with crocodiles, but with something equally repellent: a stagnant soup of rainwater, waste, and whatever else has fallen in. If enemies make it past the outer defenses, they'll encounter delightful features like murder holes, ceiling openings designed for pouring boiling liquids onto attackers below. Castle sieges were less about dramatic battles and more about boring enemies into submission. Why risk soldiers fighting when you could just surround a castle and wait for food to run out? This is why your castle pantry is stuffed with preserved food that could outlast your grandchildren's lifespans. So there you have it. Medieval castle living in all its drafty, smelly, uncomfortable glory. If you enjoyed learning about what it's like to live in a castle, You will definitely want to know what it took to be a jester. The honourable role and roasting everyone and getting paid for it. Click here to watch it.